Hi everyone. Tonight we step into the cold, misty dawn at a medieval hunting lodge, where the air is sharp with anticipation and the scent of damp earth curls beneath ancient oaks. A distant horn sounds a low, rolling note that seems to shake the very trees, stirring the sleepy world awake. You shuffle through the stone courtyard, the crunch of gravel beneath your boots mingling with the soft murmur of nobles readying themselves. There's a peculiar tension here, equal parts excitement and unspoken danger, as if the forest itself holds its breath, knowing what's to come. Before you get too cozy, a small warning. This isn't your Sunday stroll in the park. Boar, hunting with medieval nobles, was prime-time peril a dance on the edge of disaster, dressed in fine tunics and polished boots. Stick with me all the way through, and I promise you'll never look at a hunt or a wild pig the same way again. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And, hey, why not drop a quick comment telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now? It's always fun to see our little global campfire gather. Now dim, the lights, maybe turn on a fan for a gentle background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive at the lodge just as the first blush of dawn slips over the horizon. The sky is still a quilt of deep purples and blues, but the forest smells like promise, a damp, loamy fragrance that clings to the cool air. You pull your cloak tighter, feeling the weight of the day ahead. Around you, horses shift uneasily in their stalls, their breath steaming in the chill morning. The noble hunters prepare themselves with a practiced seriousness, fastening leather belts, checking the fit of chainmail gloves, and adjusting the gleam of their weapons. The sounds of the courtyard are a comforting chaos, clanking armor. Low voices exchanging last-minute strategies or jokes so dry they almost crackle. The stable boys dart back and forth with bundles of reins and saddles, their faces bright with the excitement of a big day. It's a scene balanced delicately between ritual and raw nerves, and you feel the pull of both as you stand there, part outsider, part hopeful participant. The horn sounds again, longer and more insistent this time. It carries across the valley a summons that sets your heart thumping. You catch the eye of a knight whose helm sits awkwardly atop his head, and he gives a brief, weary nod. You know that beneath the polished armor lies a mind as uneasy as yours. Hunting wild boar is no simple sport. It's a battle with nature's most unpredictable warriors. Mounting your horse proves to be a minor struggle, as the medieval saddles sit high and unforgiving. You grunt softly as you hoist yourself up, a reminder that these devices were built more for holding a lance steady than for comfort or agility. The stirrups dangle awkwardly, forcing you into a posture that feels stiff and unfamiliar. Your horse snorts a breathy, impatient sound, and you feel its muscles ripple beneath you as it shifts in the soft soil. You fall into a loose formation behind the lead hunters. The scent hounds are already straining at their leashes, eager to catch the trail. Their keen noses twitch, and you can hear the soft jingle of their collars as they shift from paw to paw. Their excitement is contagious, but also a stark reminder these dogs are trained to hunt, to track, and to bring down dangerous prey that will fight tooth and tusk for survival. The forest ahead is a living cathedral. Its tall trees, arching overhead branches, interlaced to filter the early light into dappled patterns on the ground. The air smells rich moss pine needles and the faint, sharp tang of wild garlic. Somewhere far off, a woodpecker taps in steady rhythm, a percussive heartbeat in the silence. You breathe in deeply, the cool air filling your lungs and sharpening your senses. As the party moves forward, the crunch of hooves on leaf litter and the occasional clink of metal form a quiet symphony. The nobles speak in low tones, exchanging information about previous hunts, the behavior of the boars, and the best spots to wait. You listen carefully, soaking up the knowledge that might mean the difference between glory and disaster. There's an unspoken hierarchy here. The nobles' eyes flicker, constantly assessing each other and the environment. Status matters as much as skill. A misplaced word or a clumsy action could mark you as an outsider, or worse, an unlucky companion destined to fall prey. You notice a faint, musky scent drifting on the breeze. It's the unmistakable odor of wild boar, the sharp, earthy smell that hints at their presence nearby. Your heart quickens. This is the moment when anticipation becomes tension, when patience must sharpen into alertness. The debate among scholars about medieval hunting culture still lingers in your mind. Was this ritual a pure exercise of power and status, or did it serve practical needs in managing game and preparing warriors for battle? You feel the answer might be somewhere tangled in both, like the dense forest paths ahead. For now, you focus on the task at hand. The hunt has begun. The morning sun edges higher, casting a pale glow that struggles to pierce the thick canopy overhead as you wrestle into the layered armor that clinks and creaks like a well-rehearsed symphony of medieval discomfort. Mounting your horse turns into an exercise in humility. The high saddle feels more like a throne for someone else's royal game, and you suspect whoever designed it had a flair for making riders look impressive, not necessarily comfortable. Your leg swings up with the awkward grace of a newborn foal, and the stirrup sits annoyingly too low, forcing you into a posture that screams novice. Around you, the nobles settle into their own mounts, their practiced ease, a stark contrast to your fumbling attempts. Their horses seem almost extensions of themselves, muscle and breath syncing as if in silent conversation. You can't help but notice the occasional smirk exchanged when you nearly lose your balance, but no one offers help. This is a rite of passage, and you're the newest participant in a centuries-old dance. You feel the rough leather of the reins beneath your gloved hands, their texture grounding you amidst the swirling nerves. The horses snort and shift impatient to begin the hunt, their breath steaming in the crisp morning air. You sense the growing excitement in the air like electricity before a storm. A stable boy lingers nearby, whispering something about just don't fall off before the boar shows. His tone is half jest, half warning, and you decide that advice might be the wisest of the morning. The saddles and stirrups, once marvels of medieval innovation, have their critics. Historians still debate whether they offered enough control or were cumbersome relics slowing the rider in moments that demanded precision. Once mounted, you find yourself jolted forward with the motion of the horse muscles taut to keep from bouncing like a sack of flour. The high-backed saddle presses into your thighs, reminding you that the medieval riding posture prioritized stability for lance strikes over rider comfort. You glance at the noble beside you. His posture, perfect, reins loose, but firm eyes, sharp, and scanning the forest like a hawk. The hounds burst into excited barking, tearing at their leather leashes. Their high-pitched yips and barks slice through the forest's quiet and animalistic soundtrack that sets your pulse racing. These dogs are no ordinary pets. They are finely trained hunting machines, bred for stamina and scent. Their noses marvels of evolution. You watch as one lunges forward, held back only by the firm grip of its handler claws scraping against the hard-packed earth. The forest seems to lean in around you, branches reaching like fingers leaves, whispering secrets you're only just beginning to learn. The air is thick with the scent of pine resin moss and a faint metallic tang blood. Or just your imagination, you remind yourself that the woods hold dangers unseen where a misplaced step could lead to a sprained ankle or worse. The undergrowth crunches softly under hooves and boots, a rhythmic percussion that fills the cool morning. You exchange quick glances with a noble who seems amused by your tentative grip on the reins. He leans over and mutters with a dry smile. The saddle's a beast itself. Master that, and the boar might stand a chance. You can't help but chuckle, feeling the absurdity of fighting one wild creature while wrestling with another the horse's stubbornness. As you ride deeper, the horse's movements become smoother, their familiarity with the terrain evident. The trail narrows, flanked by thorny brambles and ancient oaks, their twisted roots creating a natural labyrinth. You adjust your grip, your eyes scanning for any sign of disturbance. Broken branches, fresh tracks, the subtle shifts in the forest floor that mark a boar's passage. The nobles begin their quiet exchanges, voices lowered to strategic whispers. Discussions revolve around boar behavior, favorite ambush spots, and the timing of the hunt's crescendo. These conversations carry the weight of centuries of tradition, and you sense that every word is carefully measured both to preserve the hunt's sanctity and to assert status within the group. There's a delicate balance here between camaraderie and competition. Each hunter knows that a single mistake, misplaced lance, a misread sign could lead to injury or humiliation. The hunt is not just a test of physical skill, but mental sharpness. Your mind drifts briefly to the academic debates you've read about. Did the medieval hunting saddle evolve primarily for warfare, or was it shaped by the demands of dangerous game like the boar? Historians argue the answer is muddled, but watching the heavy leather and high pommel, you suspect it was a bit of both, an awkward but effective compromise. The hounds suddenly grow more restless, their barks rising in urgency. The scent is growing stronger, and you feel the adrenaline surge in your veins. The moment you've been waiting for inches closer, you take a deep breath, the cool forest air filling your lungs and steadying your nerves. The awkward saddle, the unwieldy reins, the nervous jitters all fade into the background. Now you ride as part of the hunt. The chorus of barking hounds swells, their sharp cries echoing through the trees like a wild orchestra tuning up for a furious crescendo. You can feel their energy raw and electric as the dogs strain against their handlers' leather reins, eager to plunge into the chase. These aren't your average family pets curled up by the hearth. They are bred for stamina, speed, and a single-minded obsession with scent, trained to track and corner the elusive and dangerous wild boar. You notice how the nobles around you treat the hounds with a mix of reverence and practicality. Some pat their necks with familiarity, murmuring low reassurances, while others give clipped commands that the dogs respond to with an almost instinctive precision. The relationship between hunter and hound is a dance perfected over generations, a partnership that can mean the difference between triumph and tragedy. The hound's noses twitch incessantly, catching a faint, elusive aroma carried on the forest breeze. The dogs pick up the trail first, tentative, then stronger, and begin to surge forward, their paws pounding the leaf-strewn earth. Their baying grows louder, a rolling thunder that stirs the stillness of the forest. You grip the reins tighter, feeling the surge of adrenaline as the hunt quickens. Around you, the forest changes subtly. The dense canopy casts deeper shadows, the air cooler and heavier, with the musk of disturbed underbrush. You catch the faint crack of twigs breaking the rustle of brambles as something large pushes through. Somewhere ahead, the boar moves with a stealthy fury, muscles rippling beneath bristling hair, eyes sharp and wild. The role of the hounds here is twofold: to track the boar's scent, and to harry it, driving the beast toward the hunters waiting further along the trail. Watching the dogs weave through the undergrowth, noses low and bodies agile, you gain a new appreciation for their training and tenacity. It's a brutal job, filled with danger, as the boar is no passive quarry, but a formidable opponent capable of turning with terrifying speed and charging with deadly tusks. As you follow the pack, you notice the varied breeds, some lean and swift, others stocky and muscular. Medieval hunting dogs were often bred specifically for boar hunting, prized for their courage and endurance. There's a fascinating academic debate about how selective breeding shaped these dogs over time, balancing speed with tenacity, a testament to medieval understanding of genetics long before it was a formal science. The cacophony of barking serves as a strange soundtrack to the unfolding drama. It's both thrilling and unsettling, a reminder that beneath the forest's serene exterior lies a brutal contest of survival. Your pulse quickens, not just from the physical exertion, but from the primal energy crackling around you. You catch a glimpse of one hound narrowly avoiding a swipe of a boar's tusks, its quick reflexes saving it from serious injury. The beast lets out a guttural snort, a sound that vibrates through the trees and into your bones. There's a wild intelligence in those eyes, a fierce determination that makes it clear this is no ordinary animal. The nobles communicate with a mix of gestures and hushed words, signaling each other as the hunt unfolds. You realize that every move is choreographed with centuries of experience, a complex ballet of patience, timing, and raw courage. The stakes couldn't be higher. One wrong step could turn a thrilling hunt into a deadly encounter. The dog's excitement is infectious, but you remind yourself to stay grounded. The forest is unforgiving, filled with hidden roots, uneven ground, and thick brambles that can trip both man and beast. Your horse navigates carefully, muscles tensing as you prepare for what comes next. Suddenly, the lead hound breaks into a frantic sprint, its baying reaching a fever pitch. The pack follows, and the noble hunters urge their horses forward, voices rising in a mix of commands and warnings. The chase has begun. In this moment, surrounded by the sights, sounds, and smells of the hunt, you understand why medieval boar hunting was considered one of the most dangerous and thrilling pursuits of the nobility. It demanded skill, courage, and an intimate knowledge of the land and its creatures. As the dogs race ahead, you steel yourself for the unpredictable and wild encounter looming just beyond the trees. The forest grows darker as you plunge deeper beneath the dense canopy, where shafts of sunlight flicker uncertainly through the swaying branches, and the air thickens with the sense of moss-damp earth, and something wilder, raw, untamed, and utterly alive. You notice the subtle signs that expert hunters spot without hesitation: a broken twig here, a displaced clump of soil there, faint hoof prints muddied by last night's rain. The forest speaks a secret language, one that has been passed down through centuries of hunts, and tonight you're trying desperately to listen. The nobles ahead move with an eerie silence, their eyes sharp and flicking constantly to the underbrush. Their horses tread lightly, trained to navigate without disturbing the fragile balance of the forest floor. Every snap of a branch or rustle of leaves sends a ripple of tension through the group, a reminder that the hunt isn't just about speed. It's about patience, observation, and respect for the land. You find yourself leaning forward in the saddle, trying to catch a glimpse of the elusive quarry. The boar's trail is faint but undeniable: trampled ferns, disturbed soil, and the unmistakable scent of musk heavy in the air. You inhale deeply, the cool forest air mixing with that wild odor prickling your senses. Nearby, a noble whispers something about how boars tend to circle back to the same wallows, making their routes somewhat predictable if you know where to look. The conversation drifts to the ancient techniques of tracking honed through trial-error and a good deal of luck. You're struck by how much of this knowledge is practical wisdom passed down orally, shaped by the rhythms of the forest and the habits of the beasts. As you move through the undergrowth, you brush against ferns and brambles that snag at your clothing, leaving tiny scratches like nature's autograph. The forest feels alive, watching you with unseen eyes. Birds flitting through the branches, squirrels scurrying away at your approach, and the occasional flicker of eyes that vanish before you can focus. The tension in the group tightens like a drawn bowstring. Every hunter knows the dangers. The boar is no mere animal, but a fierce warrior of the wild, quick to charge when cornered, and armed with razor-sharp tusks that can maim or kill. The stories you've heard echo in your mind: knights, gored horses, knocked down hunts ending in chaos and bloodshed. It's a dance on the edge of disaster. You notice how the noble's demeanor shifts from casual conversation to focused intent, their muscles coiled for action. The weight of centuries of tradition hangs in the air, a silent agreement that this moment is sacred. Here in the forest's heart, the ancient rules of the hunt prevail. The horses' hooves soften on the leaf litter as they follow the subtle signs of the boar's passage. You catch yourself holding your breath as a sharp crack echoes nearby, a twig snapped underfoot. Everyone freezes, eyes darting, breaths held. But it's just a startled deer bounding away with elegant urgency. The hounds grow restless again, their noses to the ground, voices low and urgent. Their barking rises in a steady rhythm, a signal that the scent trail is strengthening. The dogs weave in and out of trees, alert and eager, sensing that the quarry is close. The forest canopy darkens further as you push onward, the filtered light casting shifting shadows that seem to play tricks on your eyes. Every sound feels amplified: the rustle of leaves, the snap of a branch, the distant call of a bird. Your senses sharpen, attuned to the subtle dance between predator and prey. You can't help but reflect on the ongoing scholarly debate about how much medieval hunters relied on instinct versus learned skill. Some historians argue that intuition played the leading role, while others emphasize rigorous training and the passing down of detailed knowledge. Watching the nobles' practiced movements, you suspect it's a blend, equal parts natural instinct and hard-earned wisdom. Suddenly, a low grunt breaks the silence, a deep, guttural sound that vibrates through the trees. The boar is near. The hounds pick up the pace, their baying rising in excitement and urgency. The nobles tighten their grip on reins and weapons muscles, ready to spring into action. You feel the familiar rush of adrenaline flood your body, the moment stretching taut, as the forest holds its breath once more. The hunt has reached its critical moment. The forest settles into a hushed tension, as if the ancient trees themselves lean closer to witness the unfolding ritual. Around you, the nobles adjust their posture fingers, tightening on reins, and grips their faces a blend of calm focus and barely concealed excitement. Hunting with medieval nobility isn't just a sport. It's a ceremony governed by unspoken laws of etiquette and status. A delicate dance where every glance, gesture, and whispered word carries weight far beyond the moment. You feel yourself pulled into this intricate social web where showing too much eagerness might mark you as reckless, and hesitation could be read as weakness. The nobles exchange quick nods and subtle signals, a tilt of the head, a flicker of the eyes that coordinate their movements without breaking the silence. It's a language of centuries-old tradition learned as much by observation as by instruction. As your horse shifts nervously beneath you, you notice the distinct attire that sets each hunter apart. The richly embroidered tunics, the polished boots, and the carefully crafted helmets all speak to status wealth, and the subtle jockeying for favor within the group. A misplaced cloak or an ill-fitting glove might invite quiet ridicule, and you wonder how much of this ceremony is theater, and how much is genuine respect. The noble nearest you leans in with a dry smile and murmurs, "Remember, the forest rewards patience and punishes foolish pride." You tuck the advice away. It feels less like a warning and more like a rule carved in stone. The etiquette extends beyond mere appearance. You learn that speaking out of turn or acting without the leader's consent is a grave misstep, and the hierarchy is strictly maintained even amid the chaos of the chase. It's a reminder that this hunt is as much about power and politics as about the thrill of pursuit. Your eyes catch a flicker of movement, a glance exchanged between two nobles, a barely perceptible stiffening of posture. The tension is palpable. They're waiting for the moment when the boar will break cover, when patience will give way to action. The forest itself seems to hold its breath, the dappled sunlight flickering through the leaves like a fragile promise. Birds fall silent, and the usual chorus of the woods is replaced by the low murmur of horses and the distant, insistent baying of the hounds. You become aware of the small, almost imperceptible signs that the hunters read instinctively. The slight shift in wind direction, the subtle change in the dog's behavior, the way the shadows seem to twitch as the boar moves. It's a language written in the tiniest details. There's a fascinating academic debate about how rigid or flexible these hunting protocols were. Some scholars argue that the rules were strict a reflection of the broader social order. Others suggest that in the heat of the moment, necessity and survival instincts often overrode ceremony. You suspect the truth lies somewhere in the interplay where tradition and practicality intertwine. You feel your own muscles tense, mirroring the poised stillness of the nobles. The anticipation is almost tangible, a thick fog that presses against your skin. Every sense sharpens the coolness of the morning air, the faint, metallic scent of iron from your weapon, the rhythmic beat of your horse's heart beneath you. Then, from the underbrush ahead, comes a sudden rustle, a sharp crack of branches breaking under heavy weight. The boar has emerged. A low, threatening grunt vibrates through the air, a sound raw with primal fury. The nobles shift instantly, raising their weapons and settling into the positions they've practiced countless times. The rules of etiquette dissolve into the raw reality of the hunt now. Survival and skill will decide the outcome. Your heart pounds in your ears as the chase erupts into motion. The forest, once silent and watchful now, bursts with the sounds of hooves, pounding dogs barking, and warriors shouting commands. It's chaos contained within a carefully maintained order. You catch a glimpse of the boar, massive and fierce, its bristling coat and sharp tusks gleaming in the dappled light. It charges with terrifying speed, a living force of nature unleashed. In this moment, the ancient rituals and social codes fade into the background, replaced by the immediate primal struggle between hunter and hunted. The forest air thickens with tension as time stretches into a slow, taut, waiting game. You find yourself locked in a strange limbo where patience is both a virtue and a necessity, and the slightest rustle or shift could send everything spiraling into chaos. Tracking a boar isn't about the rush. It's a marathon of subtle observation, silent communication, and nerves of steel. You begin to understand why many hunters lost more to boredom than to the beast itself. The nobles around you settle into this rhythm with practiced ease, their eyes scanning the underbrush, ears tuned to the faintest sounds, fingers twitching near weapons. You feel the weight of history pressing down the centuries of hunts, where a moment's impatience cost lives, where skill was measured as much by restraint as by courage. Your horse shifts beneath you, sensing the rising tension. The scent of the boar grows stronger, a pungent mix of earth musk and something primal that seems to seep into your very bones. You breathe it in, letting it sharpen your senses even as the minutes tick by. The forest seems to close in every shadow, a potential hiding place, every whisper of leaves a signal. The quiet hum of insects fills the gaps between distant bird calls, creating an eerie soundtrack to the silent vigil. You begin to notice details you might have missed before, the way the sun dapples the forest floor. The slight depression in the earth where the boar paused the scattered remnants of bark stripped from tree trunks. There's a strange comfort in this slow pace, a meditation born from necessity. You watch as a noble adjusts his grip on his spear eyes, narrowing in focus. The mental game of anticipation, calculation, and readiness unfolds in slow motion. At the same time, the dangers lurk beneath this calm. A misstep here could mean tripping over a root, losing footing, or startling a hidden creature. The boar itself might circle back ambush from an unexpected angle, or charge with deadly speed. The forest's silence is deceptive, a ticking clock counting down to action. The nobles share whispered tales of past hunts, where patience was rewarded or betrayed. One recalls a tale of a boar that circled for hours before catching even the most seasoned hunters off guard. Another speaks of a young knight who lost his nerve and fell from his horse, a reminder that composure is as vital as skill. You realize that the hunt is as much about mastering your own fears and impulses as about tracking the animal. The debate among historians about whether medieval hunting was a form of training for war or purely sport lingers in your thoughts. Here, in this delicate balance of waiting and watching the lines blur, your own senses heighten. You feel the rough bark beneath your fingertips, the cool breeze brushing your cheek, the rhythmic pulse of your horse's breathing. You try to quiet the inner chatter, focusing instead on the subtle symphony of the forest. Suddenly, the hound's barks rise again, urgent, insistent. The boar has moved. The time for waiting ends. You grip the reins tighter as the nobles shift forward, muscles coiled like springs, ready to unleash. The forest holds its breath with you, the ancient game poised on the edge of eruption. This is the moment where patience meets peril, and the hunt moves from shadow to storm. The boar is no mere beast. It is a force of nature wrapped in a snarling, bristled package, and you quickly learn why medieval hunters feared it as much as they revered the chase. Its behavior is a baffling mix of cunning aggression and survival instinct honed by generations of evading predators and man alike. You feel that primal energy as you watch it move, head low, tusks glinting like sharpened swords muscles rippling beneath coarse hair. This is not a creature to be underestimated. The boar's keen senses and fierce temper make it a formidable opponent. You recall the stories of knights who faced their doom after underestimating the animal's speed and ferocity. It's said a wounded boar can be even more dangerous, fighting with a desperation that can turn the tide of any hunt. Your heart pounds as the noble beside you murmurs about how the boar's behavior is unpredictable. Sometimes it charges headlong into battle, and other times it retreats into thick underbrush, waiting to strike from the shadows. There's a wild intelligence in its eyes, a spark that speaks of centuries of survival against all odds. You watch as the dogs close in, barking furiously, driving the boar toward the waiting hunters. The animal lunges, tusks slashing dangerously close to the lead hound, sending it yelping back just in time. The dance between predator and prey unfolds with brutal beauty. Scholars have long debated the extent to which medieval hunters understood the psychology and habits of the boar. Some argue that their success lay in sheer bravery and muscle, while others point to detailed knowledge of the animal's seasonal patterns, feeding habits and defensive strategies. From what you see, it's clear that respect for the boar's cunning was as crucial as any weapon. As the boar charges, you feel the surge of adrenaline tighten every nerve. Its raw power sends shock waves through the forest floor, shaking leaves and scattering small animals. The tusks, curved and razor-sharp, glint ominously, a living weapon designed to tear and maim. The nobles brace themselves, weapons raised ready to meet the beast's fury. The horses snort and rear, sensing the danger muscles coiling beneath their glossy coats. The tension is electric, a moment suspended between calculated attack and wild instinct. You recall the quiet academic arguments about whether medieval hunting was more ritualized sport or a necessary skill for survival and warfare preparation. This encounter, raw and immediate, seems to straddle both worlds, ceremonial yet deadly serious. The boar crashes through the undergrowth tusks, flashing eyes blazing with feral intensity. It turns sharply, catching a noble by surprise who barely manages to raise his shield in time. The clash is thunderous, a reminder that the hunt is as much a battle as a game. You grip your reins tightly. Breath, shallow muscles, tense. The forest around you is alive with movement. Barking dogs shouted commands, the pounding of hooves, and crashing branches. Every second counts. This is the heart of the hunt, raw, chaotic, and unforgiving. The boar fights not just for survival, but for its very place in the wild. And you caught in this ancient drama are both spectator and participant. A sudden burst of chaos catches you off guard. The forest floor erupts with pounding hooves and sharp, urgent shouts, a wild symphony of sound that collides with the scent of earth and sweat. The boar, a fierce blur of muscle and tusk, bolts through the undergrowth, snapping branches and scattering leaves like a living storm. Your heart hammers in time with the rush, every nerve tingling with adrenaline. You grip the reins tighter as your horse surges forward, hooves thundering against the soft earth. The nobles around you shout commands, their voices urgent yet controlled a practiced rhythm amid the frenzy. The dogs bark incessantly, weaving in and out of trees, voices rising as they close the net around the beast. The boar's snorts are harsh and ragged, each breath a challenge hurled at the hunters. It twists and turns, charging through brambles, and leaping over fallen logs with a surprising agility that belies its bulk. You glimpse its eyes, wild, fiery, full of fierce intelligence and desperation. A sudden yelp rings out as one hound is narrowly missed by the boar's tusks, the dog spinning away with a startled growl. You flinch, reminded that this hunt is far from the orderly pageantry of noble courts. It is a brutal, unpredictable dance where fortune swings wildly. The nobles brandish spears and lances, their weapons glinting in the dappled sunlight. You notice the variety. Some wield long, slender spears, designed to strike from horseback. Others carry heavier lances, meant to pin the boar with a powerful thrust. The crossbow-toting hunters hang back slightly, waiting for a clearer shot. There's a distinct debate among historians about the practicality of these weapons in boar hunting. Spears and lances are praised for their reach and stopping power, but critics argue that crossbows, though slower to reload, offered greater precision. You sense the truth lies somewhere in the chaos you watch as hunters switch tactics on the fly, adapting to the boar's erratic movements. Your horse slips slightly on a patch of loose soil, and you steady yourself, heart pounding louder than the cacophony around you. You catch a flash of a noble's face, set jaw, narrowed eyes, a look that tells you this is no mere game. The stakes are survival and honor. Suddenly, the boar veers, sharply charging straight toward a cluster of hunters. Shouts rise as horses rear and pivot, weapons swinging into position. The air crackles with tension and the scent of sweat and fear. You see the boar's tusks flash dangerously close to a rider's side, and for a moment, time seems to freeze. The noble parries with his shield, the clash ringing out like a bell. It's a breath-stopping moment. One wrong move, and the outcome could be catastrophic. You realize the brutal truth in this hunt: mistakes are costly, and the line between hunter and hunted is razor thin. Your own hands tremble slightly as you prepare to engage, every muscle coiled to react. The forest blurs around you, a chaotic whirl of sound, movement, and raw power. This is the storm at the heart of medieval Boar, hunting a primal, dangerous ballet where courage, skill, and luck intertwine in a life-or-death contest. You take a moment to examine the weapons arrayed around you, each crafted with deadly purpose, each carrying its own set of advantages and quirks that medieval hunters debated endlessly. The spear, long and slender, is the quintessential tool, simple in design, but lethal in execution. Its reach keeps you just far enough away from the boar's snapping tusks, allowing for quick thrusting attacks that could end the fight in a heartbeat. Beside you, a hunter hefts a lance, its shaft thicker and heavier, designed for mounted strikes that require the momentum of a galloping horse. You notice the lance's broad, leaf-shaped blade, made to penetrate tough hide and bone, but also demanding skill and timing too slow, and you risk losing your balance or missing the target altogether. Crossbows are another matter entirely. Some hunters carry these mechanical marvels which require less physical strength than a traditional bow, but come with their own slow reload times. You overhear a whispered debate. Crossbows provide precision and stopping power, but in the chaotic rush of a boar charge, their slower firing speed might leave you vulnerable. Still, their ease of use made them popular, especially among less experienced riders or those who preferred distance to close combat. There's an ongoing scholarly discussion about how medieval hunters balanced these weapons in practice. Was there a clear hierarchy of preference, or did individual style and circumstance dictate choices? Judging by the variety around you, it seems the latter. The chaos of the hunt demands flexibility and improvisation. You tighten your grip on your own spear, feeling the rough wood beneath your gloves. The shaft is worn smooth in places evidence of many hunts before yours. The iron tip gleams cold, its edges sharpened to a fine point. You can't help but admire the craftsmanship, simple, effective, and designed to save lives. A noble nearby polishes the haft of his lance with a cloth, muttering about the importance of balance and how a well-weighted weapon can mean the difference between a clean kill and a near-fatal mishap. You nod along, aware that every ounce matters when facing a boar's furious charge. Your attention is drawn to a gamekeeper standing just off the path, his eyes calm and steady. He carries a different set of tools, knives, traps, and a long, sturdy staff. His role is crucial, though less glamorous, ensuring the forest remains stocked, and that the hunt follows the rules of gamekeeping and stewardship. The gamekeeper offers a quick nod before disappearing into the trees, a reminder that behind the noble's grand display lies a world of hard labor and deep knowledge. It's this network of support that often determines the hunt's success or failure. You reflect on how medieval society viewed hunting as both sport and management, a way to control wildlife populations and preserve the forest's delicate balance. The scholarly debates you've read come to mind. Some see hunting as a purely aristocratic leisure activity, while others emphasize its practical environmental role. Your thoughts are interrupted by a sudden shift in the forest's rhythm, a low growl, the bark of a hound, the flash of movement. The boar is near, and the weapons you've studied will soon meet their true test. Your pulse quickens as you ready yourself, the weight of history and the promise of danger heavy in your hands. Behind the polished armor and noble bravado, there's a shadowy but essential cast to this unfolding drama, the peasantry and gamekeepers whose knowledge and labor keep the hunt alive. You watch a few figures standing at the forest's edge, clad in simpler garb but eyes sharp as any lord's. These are the unsung heroes of medieval hunting custodians of the woods, whose intimate understanding of the terrain, animal habits, and forest secrets often make the difference between triumph and disaster. The gamekeepers, or keepers of the forest, are responsible for maintaining the delicate balance of wildlife populations. Their tasks range from tending to the animals' habitats to setting traps and marking trails. They know the land's rhythms intimately, where the boars wallow, which thickets provide cover, and when the beasts are most active. Without their guidance, even the most skilled nobles would be lost in the tangled woods. You notice how the nobles treat these keepers with a mix of respect and condescension, a reflection of the rigid social hierarchy of the time. The keepers are valued for their expertise, but remain firmly in their place, their voices seldom carrying beyond the edge of the hunt. It's a reminder of the complex interplay between power, knowledge, and class in medieval society. Peasants, too, play vital roles. Some are tasked with driving game toward the hunters, while others manage the horses and equipment. Their work is grueling and often dangerous, yet it's rarely acknowledged in the grand tales of the hunt. You feel a pang of sympathy for these overlooked participants whose sweat and skill sustain the noble spectacle. There's an interesting academic discussion about how much influence these common folk had on the practice of hunting. Some scholars argue that their practical knowledge was indispensable, shaping hunting techniques and strategies. Others suggest that the nobles often dismissed or appropriated this wisdom without giving due credit. Observing the subtle dynamics today, you suspect it was a complicated mix of both. As the hunt progresses, you glimpse a keeper quietly signaling to a noble, a hand raised here, a glance exchanged there, a silent code that orchestrates movements with precision. It's a reminder that beneath the glamour lies a web of communication and collaboration. The forest around you is alive with more than just animals. It's a stage where social roles play out as much as the chase itself. You become acutely aware that the success of the hunt depends on this hidden network: the gamekeeper's eyes, the peasant's labor, the noble's command. The smell of damp earth mingles with the sharp tang of leather and metal, creating a sensory backdrop to this complex human drama. Every rustle in the undergrowth carries meaning. Every bark of a hound signals a shift in momentum. You take a deep breath and steady your nerves, knowing that you stand at the intersection of centuries-old traditions, social structures, and the raw unpredictability of nature. The hunt presses on, propelled by forces both visible and unseen. As the hunt carries on, you can't help but notice how superstition threads its way through the nobles' movements and conversations, weaving a quiet yet potent tapestry of beliefs that hover just beneath the surface of their practiced composure. In this world where danger lurks behind every shadow, and the boar's fury can turn the tide of a day, omens and rituals aren't just quaint relics. They're shields against the unknown. A noble nearby mutters a soft prayer to Saint Hubert, patron saint of hunters' fingers, tracing the emblem on his pendant. He tosses a pinch of salt over his shoulder, a gesture meant to ward off bad luck. You feel the weight of centuries of whispered traditions and half-remembered rites settling around you like an invisible armor. The forest itself seems charged with superstition. Hunters avoid certain paths on specific days, believing that bad spirits dwell in particular groves, or that the direction of the wind can carry either fortune or doom. You overhear a whispered story about a boar's eye glowing unnaturally in the moonlight, a sure sign of a cursed beast doomed to wreak havoc until slain. These beliefs extend to the tools of the hunt as well. Some hunters carry charms or tokens tucked beneath their armor, small items believed to bring luck or protection. Others perform rituals before mounting drawing crosses in the dirt, or sprinkling herbs thought to repel evil. There's an intriguing scholarly debate about how deeply these superstitions influenced medieval hunting practices. Were they psychological comforts, helping hunters manage fear? Or did they shape behavior in concrete ways, guiding decisions and strategies? You sense that for many, the line between practical caution and mystical belief blurred in the thick woods. You watch a group pause to perform a quick ritual, crossing themselves and offering a brief prayer before moving forward. The solemnity of the moment contrasts sharply with the earlier bravado, revealing the hunter's acknowledgement of forces beyond their control. At the same time, these superstitions serve as social glue, reinforcing shared identity and tradition among the nobles. Participating in rituals signals belonging trust and respect for the hunt's sacredness. The forest feels alive with whispers, not just the sounds of animals, but echoes of ancient fears and hopes. The rustle of leaves, the shifting shadows, even the flight of a lone crow overhead seem loaded with meaning. You realize that the hunt is as much a spiritual journey as a physical one, where the tangible dangers of tusks and hooves intertwine with invisible threats and protections. This blend of superstition and reality creates a rich, complex tapestry, adding layers of meaning to each moment and movement. You breathe deeply, the forest air filling your lungs, as you carry both sword and prayer spear and superstition into the heart of the wild. The boar's shadow looms close, but so do the ancient powers that hunters believe guide their fate. The echoes of battle ripple through the forest as stories of injury and survival weave their way among the nobles, painting vivid pictures of the harsh reality behind the hunt's veneer of sport and ceremony. You listen closely as a seasoned hunter recounts a narrow escape, a deep gash across his thigh, blood soaking through chainmail, the fierce pain overshadowed only by the relief of making it back alive. His tale carries a raw honesty that cuts through the morning's polite conversation. Boar hunting was no gentle pastime. These creatures with their thick hides and deadly tusks were capable of inflicting wounds that could fester or prove fatal in the unforgiving wilderness. You feel a chill as you imagine the sharp sting of a tusk slicing through flesh, the frantic scramble to stop bleeding before the nearest healer could be reached, assuming one was close enough. The nobles share grim anecdotes, their voices dropping to respectful tones when recounting hunts gone wrong. Horses, thrown riders, gored alliances tested by the chaos of the chase. These stories serve as cautionary tales and badges of honor, reminding all that bravery alone could not guarantee survival. You notice the careful attention paid to wound treatment and recovery herbs crushed into poultices, prayers said to saints of healing, and the vital role of the hunt's medics. It's a world where medical knowledge is limited, but the will to survive burns fiercely. The boar's tenacity in battle earned it a fearsome reputation, and you can see why. You recall debates among historians about the lethality of medieval hunting injuries and how they shaped hunting strategies. Some argue that hunters adapted their tactics to minimize risk, favoring coordinated attacks and specialized weapons. Others suggest a certain reckless valor persisted with nobles eager to prove their courage even in the face of grave danger. The forest around you seems to hold these stories in its very soil. The blood spilled mingling with earth, a silent testament to lives risked and lost. You feel a sobering weight settle on your shoulders, a reminder that the hunt's glamour is built on harsh realities. Your horse shudders beneath you, sensing the tension. You grip the reins, tighter eyes, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. The stories of injury bring a heightened awareness every branch could hide danger, every rustle could signal an ambush. Yet amidst this danger, there's a profound respect for the boar's fierce spirit. The animal is not merely prey, but a worthy adversary commanding admiration, even as it threatens life and limb. You find yourself caught between awe and apprehension, the thrill of the hunt tempered by the stark reminder of its cost. This delicate balance between glory and grief risk, and reward pulses through the forest, threading its way into every heartbeat. As the chase continues, you carry these lessons with you, aware that survival depends on more than skill. It requires respect, caution, and a readiness to face whatever the wild may throw your way. As the boar hunt winds toward its climax, the atmosphere begins to shift from tense anticipation to a quieter, more communal energy. The feast preparation. You find yourself moving away from the chaos of the chase and toward the long tables set under the canopy of ancient trees, where the spoils of the hunt will be celebrated, dissected, and devoured. The air is thick with the mingled scents of roasting meat spiced ale and crushed herbs, a stark contrast to the sharp, earthy aromas of the forest. The nobles gather around faces flushed with exertion and excitement, garments stained with mud and sweat, but eyes bright with triumph. The ritual of the feast is as carefully choreographed as the hunt itself. Servants bustle about, laying out platters of wild boar venison and fresh bread, their movements swift and practiced. You notice how the presentation of the meal reflects the hierarchy, with the Lord's portion always the largest, and guests receiving servings according to their rank. There's an unspoken reverence in the way the hunters approach the food, a shared respect for the animal that gave its life. The boar's meat is sliced, carefully seasoned with wild herbs, gathered from the very woods you just traversed. The first bite is a rich, smoky burst of flavor, a tangible reward for the danger and effort endured. The feast is not just sustenance, but a social spectacle. Stories of the hunt are exchanged in booming voices and laughter, each tale growing more elaborate as the evening wears on. Jokes and jabs fly between nobles, the camaraderie forged in the heat of battle now softened by drink and shared triumph. You notice the presence of minstrels in the background, their melodies weaving a gentle soundtrack that lulls the gathering into a warm, convivial haze. The interplay of music, food, and storytelling creates a tapestry of celebration that connects the present to centuries of tradition. There's a fascinating, scholarly discussion about how medieval hunts served not only as sport, but as political theater, reinforcing alliances and social bonds through these communal feasts. The ritual of sharing the hunt's spoils was as important as the chase itself, a moment where social order was both displayed and reinforced. As the feast progresses, you observe the nobles loosening their strict postures, their laughter ringing freer, their eyes brighter. The tension of the hunt melts away into the glow of shared victory and indulgence. You savor the moment, the taste of roasted boar lingering on your tongue, the warmth of ale spreading through your veins. The forest around you darkens, shadows deepening as night approaches, but the fires of the feast burn bright. In this space, the raw edge of danger softens, replaced by community and celebration. The hunt has ended, but its spirit lives on in stories, laughter, and the bonds forged around the fire. You realize that the medieval boar hunt was as much about connection between people, between past and present, between man and nature, as it was about conquest. And as the stars emerge overhead, you feel a deep, contented sigh settle in your chest, grateful to have lived a day in this ancient, wild dance. As the last embers of the feast flicker, and the hunters begin to disperse, your thoughts drift toward the deeper significance of this ancient ritual, beyond the roar of the chase and the clatter of weapons. You find yourself pondering the debates that have long echoed through halls of scholarship and history. Was medieval boar hunting primarily a pursuit of sport and status, or did it serve a more practical, perhaps even survivalist function? Some historians argue fervently that hunting was a demonstration of aristocratic power, a stage on which nobles could display their skill, courage, and wealth. The elaborate rituals, strict etiquette, and lavish feasts all point to a carefully constructed performance designed to reinforce social hierarchies. The hunt, in this view, was less about necessity and more about spectacle. Yet others contend that hunting was an essential part of medieval life, a necessary activity for managing wildlife populations, training warriors, and supplementing diets. The skills honed in the forest tracking, weapon handling, endurance had clear applications on the battlefield and in the defense of territory. Moreover, controlling game like boar helped protect crops and livestock from destruction. You sense the truth lies somewhere between these perspectives. The hunt is both a dance of power and a test of survival where ritual and practicality intertwine. The noble's carefully maintained images coexist with the very real dangers and demands of the wilderness. The forest around you seems to embody this duality, a place of order and chaos, of tradition and wild unpredictability. As dusk settles, shadows lengthening, and the air cooling, you feel the weight of history pressing softly against the present. You recall the hunter's careful adherence to protocol during the day, their measured movements and silent communications, all underscored by an awareness of the hunt's deadly seriousness. Yet you also remember the spontaneous moments, the sudden charges, the breathless chases, the roars of triumph and cries of pain that speak to the raw, untamed heart of the experience. The scholars' debates mirror the complexity you've witnessed firsthand. The hunt is not easily boxed into a single category. It is a living tradition shaped by many forces. As the last light fades, you stand amid the settling calm, sensing the forest's timeless watchfulness. The hunt may have ended, but its echoes linger in the stories shared around fires, in the scars on riders and animals alike, and in the quiet pulse of the earth beneath your feet. You take a deep breath, letting the cool evening air fill your lungs, and feel a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The day has been a journey through danger, tradition, and connection, a glimpse into a world both distant and deeply human. With the stars beginning to twinkle overhead, you ready yourself to leave the woods behind, carrying the lessons and memories with you. The hunt is over, but its story is far from forgotten. The forest around you has begun to settle into the quiet stillness of dusk shadows deepening, and the chorus of daytime creatures giving way to the soft murmurs of night. The adrenaline of the hunt fades, replaced by a lingering weight, a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and a profound respect for the wild and the dangers you've faced. You breathe slowly, feeling the cool air fill your lungs as the forest exhales around you. The nobles dismount, their movements slower, now bodies weary, but spirits buoyed by survival and success. Horses nuzzle at saddlebags, and water troughs steam rising from their flanks as they shake off the day's exertions. The earth beneath your feet feels solid yet alive, the imprint of countless hunts past etched into its fabric. You notice how the forest, so fierce and threatening only hours before now, seems almost gentle, a timeless sanctuary returning to its rhythm. Leaves whisper softly in the evening breeze, and distant calls of owls punctuate the quiet. It's a world apart from the chaos of the hunt, yet deeply connected. A sense of reverence settles over the group as the nobles share quiet words of thanks to the forest, to the boar, to the forces beyond their control. The hunt was a trial, a test and a ritual, a moment where human ambition and nature's unpredictability collided. You reflect on the complex dance you've witnessed, the blending of danger and decorum, superstition and strategy, pain and celebration. The hunt is a mirror of life itself, unpredictable and fraught with risk, yet rich with meaning and connection. As the twilight deepens, you feel a softening in your thoughts, a gentle slowing of time. The sharp edges of fear and excitement blur into a warm glow of reflection. The forest's secrets seem to hum beneath your skin, inviting calm and contemplation. You let your gaze drift upward to the stars emerging through the thinning canopy, ancient lights, watching over a world that has changed, yet remains remarkably constant. The cycle of hunt and rest, challenge and peace continues as it always has. In this fading light, You feel gratitude for the experience, for the lessons, and for the quiet moments that follow the storm. The day's journey has left its mark a story etched into memory, like the scars on bark and bone. As you prepare to leave the forest's embrace, your footsteps slow, and your breathing deepens. The world feels vast and mysterious, but also intimate and known. You carry the hunt with you in your heart, in your mind, in the quiet spaces between thoughts. The night settles softly, a lullaby for the wild and the weary alike. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the gentle hum of the woods wash over you, and as sleep begins to pull you under, you whisper a quiet thanks to the forest, the boar, the hounds, and the noble hunters who dared to dance on the edge of danger. As the forest darkens and the fires fade, the day's wild drama dissolves into quiet reflection. You feel the lingering pulse of adrenaline softened by exhaustion, a calm settling deep in your bones. The hunt has been more than a chase, it was a journey through time, a weaving of ancient rituals, human courage, and nature's untamable spirit. You've seen how the nobles balanced ceremony with survival, how the hound's barking was both guide and herald of danger, and how the forest itself seemed alive with secrets and shadows. The dance between hunter and hunted revealed a world where status and skill intertwined, where superstition whispered alongside strategy, and where every moment hung on a knife's edge between triumph and tragedy. You carry with you the lessons of patience and respect, the humbling reminder that nature commands both fear and admiration. Now, as the night wraps its velvet arms around you, the forest's timeless watchfulness invites you to rest. The echoes of the day's hunt drift into dreams, a tapestry of whispered leaves, distant howls, and the steady beat of hooves fading into the dark. Sleep softly, knowing you have touched a world where danger and beauty coexist, where every breath is a gift, and where the wild heart of the forest beats eternal. Good night.